So I think I might have just found a new video that helps to expose who is creating the supply suffocation that the Trump family continues to talk about. We can all see it, but who is it? Who is creating?
The OTCs have the least amount of Bitcoin ever on their books, right? I mean, the arrow is going straight down as the price of Bitcoin is going straight up. I've got a dear friend. He spoke on the stage before, Simon from Metaplan, and I asked him, what's the hardest problem? And he goes, honestly, we're running out of Bitcoin. It's hard to find on the exchanges. I mean, guys, everybody wants it. No one wants to get rid of it. Everybody wants it as a balance sheet item.
So that's the clip that went a little bit viral a little while ago. And since then, everybody's been asking themselves, who is creating this supply suffocation that we can clearly see? Well, I found this new video that I think does a good job of explaining it.
Sovereign wealth funds, I hear it from the wealthiest families, I hear it from the biggest companies. I mean, the adoption of it is incredible. I told the story, I was at MENA in Abu Dhabi, and I told the story right before I got there. A good buddy of mine runs one of the biggest banks in America. You can probably guess which one it is. They run a very, very large office for that bank in the wealthiest suburb of New York, right, in Greenwich, Connecticut. And he always said, a year ago, he was saying, hey, Bitcoin's funny money. Crypto's funny money. The other day, he goes, Eric, where do I buy this incredible kind of, cryptocurrency? Where do I buy Bitcoin? How do I get into this world? And so every single day, guys, I'm telling you, people who were kind of staunchly against it, people who didn't understand it, people who were closed-minded, people who were kind of rhinos to traditional finance are coming around in a massive way. And I think the kind of spike in Bitcoin is going to be significant. And therefore, it really is kind of a race to the top right now. There's a lot of people who are running very, very hard at this mission. And I promise you, we're going to beat them in that marathon.
Okay, so who is that bank that Eric Trump is talking about? Well, today I've got a little bit of an interesting video prepared for you because we are seeing some of the massive multi-trillion-dollar banks in America quietly 6x their Bitcoin exposure over the past quarter. Of course, we know that this new cheat sheet came out showing that the top 25 banks in America, a large majority of them are offering Bitcoin products. They're buying Bitcoin themselves. So we're going to be talking a lot about the banks, but I don't think the banks are the only entities I want to be talking about today when we are talking about the supply suffocation that we are talking about, because we've also seen some updates this week when it comes to some of the biggest sovereign wealth funds. Okay, so we've got a lot to cover, but again, while we're talking about Eric Trump, I just want you guys to recognize how bullish this is that we have the president's son openly talking about the fact that the biggest problem right now is that there's not enough Bitcoin on exchanges. He's saying it. He's saying the quiet parts out loud. And in one of his most bullish clips,
wants Bitcoin, everybody is buying Bitcoin. If you go back 12 months, there were probably less than 100 companies that were treasuring Bitcoin that really had any. And now every single day, it's another sovereign wealth fund. Look what GameStop just did. Look what Truth Social did. Every single day, people are allocating billions and billions of dollars to it. 0.1 Bitcoin is going to be worth an absolute fortune. And, look at the OTC.
So 0.1 Bitcoin is going to be worth an absolute fortune. I think that is a quote I just want you guys to keep in the back of your mind for today's video. But let's go back to that first clip. Who is Eric Trump talking about? Who are these sovereign wealth funds that he knows are accumulating Bitcoin? Let's dive into the story I've got for you guys today. There's a lot going on when it comes to the biggest markets around the world. Again, the sovereign wealth fund market, this is an $11 trillion giant. And we just saw the largest sovereign wealth fund come out this week and say, yeah, you know what? We're increasing our Bitcoin exposure once again. We can see it right here. The $1.7 trillion Norwegian sovereign wealth fund has once again increased its Bitcoin exposure. What I'm interested in is the size of the increase. 83%. That ain't chump change, ladies and gentlemen. That's huge. 83% is nearly a doubling in its position. And again, we're going to get to that bank that we talked about that just 6x'd, 600%ed its position. We're going to get to that in a minute after we try to find some new words. I'm not sure if percented is a word, but let's have a look at what the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund did. They just climbed their Bitcoin exposure from 6,200 to 11,400. They did this because guess what? They own a ton of MicroStrategy. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Again, I do think MicroStrategy is the vehicle that a lot of these sovereign wealth funds are going to use to get access to Bitcoin. We're seeing this. It's either BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF or it is MicroStrategy's company. MicroStrategy, it is the Bitcoin company. It is the number one go-to company when it comes to Bitcoin exposure. Again, how many nation states, how many central banks right now are openly printing money to buy MicroStrategy shares? Let's not forget, we've got the Swiss central bank. They have been buying MicroStrategy shares for a long time now, and they also continue to increase their exposure to MicroStrategy. Who else have we got? We've got, I believe we've got a central bank in Norway as well. I don't think it's a coincidence that we also have the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund talking about Bitcoin and also buying a lot of Bitcoin. And let's not forget what's happening in the Middle East. The Middle East also have a ton of, let's call them what they are, Bitcoin connections. So we've got the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund. We've got the, I believe it is Qatar as well. They're getting into Bitcoin a little bit. All of this is very interesting. And all of this is slowly but surely just starting to accelerate. And I think we need to pay very, very, very close attention to what is going on in these sovereign wealth funds. Okay, I'm back. I don't know if you guys noticed or not. My computer just froze for about 3 minutes. I couldn't move you guys around. I couldn't show you what I wanted to show you. I want to show you a chart. I want to show you a couple of the receipts that I was talking about there as my computer was frozen. Apologies about that. I wonder how many of you guys noticed that I was a little bit frazzled. But this is the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund receipt I was talking about and looking at. Let's not forget what I think is huge. And the reason why I'm focusing in here on the Trumps and the Trump family is Trump's company is shockingly one of the top holders of Bitcoin. And this has kind of come pretty quickly. Everybody's obviously talking about these Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds buying up a ton of Bitcoin. But let's not forget, Trump right now is heavily incentivized to let this thing run, to let this thing absolutely rip. Now, again, if we take a look at the Bitcoin companies, this is one of my favorite charts. I absolutely love this. We can see Trump media. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can see already they're up to number 8 on this list. So they've got 15,000 Bitcoin, according to bitcointreasuries.net. And this amount, it's still rising, okay? This is, again, the interesting thing. Nearly every couple of weeks, we do see Trump media raise more and more money to buy more and more Bitcoin. And again, it's the game theory that I'm interested in. A lot of these guys are now incentivized to copy what BlackRock has done. This is by far one of my favorite charts in the entire Bitcoin space. It shows us how much and how far BlackRock is pulling ahead of its competitors. BlackRock is growing its Bitcoin stack aggressively. And now we have the Trump family. What are they doing? They are right now creating their own ETF. Don't you think that's a little bit interesting? We now have the Trump family creating their very own ETF. Does this spell the end of BlackRock's dominance when it comes to the ETF realm? I don't know. I'll ask you guys that question. I think it's fascinating. That is all I will say. I think there's a lot of interesting ties when we start looking at what exactly is going on in America. We got, is Trump pro-Bitcoin? Are they pro-globalist? I don't think they're pro-globalist. But again, I asked this question because I saw something strange come out this week. Really strange. Everybody knows that Larry Fink, again, head of BlackRock, he's pro-Bitcoin. Naturally, we all know that. We all agree to that. Fink is pro-Bitcoin. But look at what I just saw here regarding Fink and the World Economic Forum. Don't you think that's interesting? Larry Fink is now interim co-chair of the World Economic Forum. Strange, interesting. I've got a deep dive on this topic coming soon, so I'm just going to leave that there for now. I'm just going to say, look, it's interesting. Keep that in the back of your mind whenever we're talking about the ETFs and what the banks are doing and the supply suffocation that I think we're seeing. We're seeing some, let's just call it what it is, suspicious movements when it comes to government players. And again, think about the timing here. Why did Fink join the World Economic Forum now? Just after the Trump family begins to talk about creating their own ETF. Just another one of those things that makes you raise your eyebrow and think, hang on a minute, what is going on here? It's interesting, but I don't think it's nearly as interesting as what the banks are doing. I do want to cover what the banks are doing because I think it is absolutely massive news, especially when you consider we now have a multi-trillion-dollar American bank increasing its Bitcoin exposure by more than 600% in the last quarter. We can see Wells Fargo is not the only bank absolutely FOMOing into Bitcoin. If you look at the biggest 25 banks in America, we can see about 9 of them are already pro-Bitcoin, and there's a couple on this list who haven't yet publicly made a move into Bitcoin, but privately, we can see a lot of these big boys and these billionaires at the helm of these big banks are making massive moves into Bitcoin. So today I want to kind of explain what exactly is going on in the banking market. The banking market is a very, very important one when we start thinking about this broader picture in Bitcoin. Again, Trump has recently come out and tried to attack any of the banks who do not offer pro-Bitcoin services. Again, we're going to get to that in a minute. Just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through some of the more recent developments in the banking realm recently. We can see hedge fund Brevin Howard just disclosed ownership of $2.3 billion worth of Bitcoin ETFs. Again, this is huge. $2.3 billion is absolutely massive. And while we're talking about the confusion when it comes to the banks and the smoke and the mirrors game that they typically use and they play. Again, let's not forget Jamie Dimon, who publicly bashed Bitcoin, but privately he's got his bags absolutely packed, holding hundreds of millions of dollars of MicroStrategy shares. Just remember that. And then let's consider what happened this week with Google. So Bitcoin overtook Google as the 5th biggest asset in the entire world, $2.45 trillion asset. Then what happened literally hours later? Well, Google came out and banned Bitcoin wallets from the App Store. And again, this was literally hours later. We can see they actually had to come out and clear the air and say, well, hang on a minute, we're going to do a little bit of waffling, a little bit of backflipping, and a little bit of a change of our stance because of the backlash they got. They had to actually come out and say, yeah, you know what? We're not necessarily banning Bitcoin wallets, not straight away. They tried to muddy the waters a little bit because of the amount of backlash they got. This is very important. And again, I think this is a story that needs to be in the back of our minds for some time now. You know, I don't think these big boys are completely ignoring charts like this. Bitcoin right now is climbing up the charts of the most valuable companies and assets in the entire world. And again, do you think Apple or Google or Microsoft or Nvidia are going to be happy and proud that Bitcoin's now worth more than their company that they've worked on for 30 years? I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's, I don't believe in coincidences. Let's also not forget recently when Bitcoin climbed up this list and became more valuable than Amazon on the exact same day, Amazon's CEO and founder, Jeff Bezos, actually said, yeah, you know what? We're going to accept Bitcoin for payment over on my space company, Blue Origin. He hasn't accepted Bitcoin for payment at Amazon yet. Why? Who knows? Maybe he's using it as a little bit of a testing ground at his other company, Blue Origin. But again, I just I think it's something to pay very close attention to. Again, we're talking about what the billionaires are doing today, the bankers and the sovereign wealth funds. And I think sometimes you can gauge what their true intentions are based on what they're doing and when they're doing it. Okay, very, very, very important. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about sovereign wealth funds. Before I do that, I want to take a look at a few interesting headlines I saw this week. So right now, Bitcoin has been above $100,000 for 100 days. And you can see Bitcoin's 200-day moving average has actually crossed above $100,000 for the first time ever. And have a look at, when Bitcoin has reached a milestone like this previously. When the 200-day moving average got above $100 in 2013, we never went below $100 again. The exact same thing happened in early 2017 when we crossed $1,000. We never ever went below $1,000 again. The exact same thing happened here in 2020. You can see once Bitcoin's moving average got above $10,000, that big psychological barrier, we never went below $10,000 again. And now we've kind of been flirting with this $100,000 level for some months now. Again, we've been over 100K for 100 days. Does this mean now that we've got the 200-day moving average above $100, does this mean we're never going to see $100,000 ever again? This is just a thought experiment. It's just a question. What do you guys think? Jay in the chat says thoughts on Bitcoin going 350K in February 2026, then a 70 to 80% price correction. Yeah, I think we could see 350 in February. Again, nobody knows where the price of Bitcoin is going, especially this kit. I honestly don't have a clue, but I think 350 is probably more likely than most people think. If I had to just lick the finger and stick it up there to see what the wind is doing, if I had to guess, so to say, I would probably say like 30, 40, 50% chance we hit 350. Good chance we go much higher than that. That's just my thoughts, my crazy thoughts. Because again, I do think that this bull run, it's showing us something that we've never really seen before. We're seeing a lot of interest from the banks get into Bitcoin. The banks are FOMOing into Bitcoin. They're not slowing down. And again, I think as we continue to see this supply suffocation, I think we're going to continue to see some, I'm going to call it rumors and suspicions right now. All I will say is that I saw this chart and it's a little bit alarming. There's 2.8 million Bitcoin on Coinbase right now. That's worth $327 billion. Again, strange. That's a lot. And I think as we're going to continue to see so much Bitcoin ripped off the exchanges, again, a lot of that 3 million number I just showed you was Bitcoin stuck and centralized in Coinbase custody. Big differentiation here. We're not talking about Bitcoin on exchange. We're talking about Bitcoin on Coinbase custody. And I think the less and the less Bitcoin actually available for sale, I think we're going to sadly see more and more, let's call it events like this. So I saw this on Twitter. It's a little bit concerning. Nick Newman here says, last night got a text about someone who moved a bunch of Bitcoin from an exchange to a desktop wallet. The computer immediately locked him out of it, and the Bitcoin was stolen from the wallet. So what happened was that his desktop had malware on the computer, and somebody was just sitting there patiently waiting for him to actually put some Bitcoin into a hot wallet. And well, look what happened. His Bitcoin was immediately stolen from him. Again, this is yet another reminder, guys. Take your Bitcoin custody very seriously. The higher the price of Bitcoin goes, the more economic attacks like this will become. Again, who knows how long this poor gentleman had a computer infected with malware, but this is yet another reminder. Never trust phone wallets with a large amount of Bitcoin. Never trust desktop wallets or any wallets that actually have their keys attached to the internet, okay? What you need to do is get one of these. If you do have Bitcoin on an exchange, highly recommend you take it off, put it into a Bitcoin hardware wallet. Look, I've got a ton of these things. I like to play around. I'm a little bit of a nerd. You can see I've probably got 5 or 6 of these things. These are just my toy hardware wallets. My real ones don't even stay with me when I travel. But again, highly recommend you get your hands on a hardware wallet and take self-custody. You should not be putting this off. And again, actually, for those who have been putting off taking self-custody of their Bitcoin, I might have a little bit of a special treat for you, because right now, if you buy one of these ledgers, they're running a new promotion for the next couple of days where they're literally going to be giving you $80 of free Bitcoin if you buy a hardware wallet. You can see, if you buy a Ledger Stacks, $80 of free Bitcoin. It's a voucher that comes with the hardware wallet. Ledger Flex, you're going to get $70 of free Bitcoin. Again, they're literally giving away Bitcoin over at Ledger, but this offer is only happening for a couple of days. So if you have been putting off taking self-custody of your Bitcoin, now is a great time to go and grab a Bitcoin hardware wallet. I've got the Ledger Stacks and the Ledger Flexes are both touchscreen hardware wallets. As you can see, I can work this backwards with my big sweaty sausages for fingers. Super easy to use. Highly recommend you check them out. Again, taking self-custody of your Bitcoin is an essential. Again, if you're looking for something like a hardware wallet, I think a Trezor 5 is also a great option. They're a Bitcoin-only hardware wallet. And again, highly recommend you just get your hands on any hardware wallet you can. These attacks will continue to come, and you can get 5% off a Trezor if you want one of those by using a promo code Luke5. That's capital Luke. And again, once you've got your Bitcoin hardware wallet, doesn't matter what one you get, but once you've got one, I always encourage you guys, do not write down your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words on paper. You need to put that into titanium. I think Stampseed creates the industry standard solution for Bitcoin backups. Look at that, super easy to punch in your 12 or 24 words into titanium. And you guys can even get a 15% discount on anything you want to buy from Stampseed with a promo code Luke15. So please just consider taking self-custody, protecting your Bitcoin, and as if it's worth a lot more than it is today, because the type of attacks that we just looked at, they're going to become more and more common. And again, it's really sad. Once you lose your Bitcoin, once your Bitcoin's lost, once it's stolen, once it's sent to the wrong address, she's never coming back. There's no support line you can call when it comes to Bitcoin. It is gone, it is gonzo, and it is absolutely never coming back. And that is, again, what I think we should be thinking about when it comes to Bitcoin on exchanges. I don't think it's ever coming back. I think the Bitcoin that leaves the exchanges today, I think it's a little bit like Hotel California. You can check in, but you can't leave. I think a lot of this Bitcoin that we're now seeing funneled onto the balance sheets of nation states, public companies, private companies, ETFs. I think a lot of this is never going to come back online. And again, this is why we need to pay very close attention to how rapidly these massive banks like Wells Fargo and etc. are buying their Bitcoin. They're not slowing down. I think we've kind of reached escape velocity here. I think right now we're in a completely different realm when it comes to Bitcoin adoption. I think we're going to continue to see more and more face melting rallies. I did see this chart here. Speaking of face melting rallies, let's not forget what happened to gold recently. Now, again, you guys know I do not believe in trading or patterns or charts. I'm very skeptical of all of that stuff. But I did see this little comparison here, and I thought that was interesting. Hey, who knows if Bitcoin is breaking out? That kind of looks like a trend line that maybe Gareth Soloway might draw in a chart. Certainly not something I'd be drawing, but I do think it's interesting. I do kind of feel like we're in that realm of, you know, the bull run is about to really kick off. In that image that I showed you guys, looking at the number of days that we've been above 100K, something that you might have noticed on it was once, a lot of the times when we breach these milestones and the 200-day moving average popped above, look at what happens to the price of Bitcoin just after these green lines. Face melting rally. Again, who knows if history repeats? If it does, the next 6 months is going to be incredibly bullish. It's going to be incredibly face melting. I think we're going to see a lot of green candles. The number is going to go up a lot. I think it's going to go up faster than most people think. And that's just if history repeats. Again, I'm not going to talk for 20 minutes today and tell you why I think there's a good chance history doesn't repeat, and actually we see something way, way, way more bullish than ever before. I might say that for another video, but I will say that even this year already, while most people are bored of Bitcoin, again, my better half, she's been Bitcoin a little bit now, and she's like, why is the price not going up? I keep saying, zoom out, honey. The price is going up. We're up 80% this year. Bitcoin is the best performing asset. And again, right now, it doesn't quite feel like a massive bull run because we're not really getting the ears pinned back, so to say, and we're not seeing face melting rallies. But I think we're going to see one very, very, very soon. I think the day is coming. And again, I do think just if history repeats, pretty soon we are going to, I think, be in for a little bit of a treat. Again, I think 2025, it's going to end very well. Why do I believe that? I believe that because if you look at Bitcoin's seasonality, you always see that Q4 is incredibly bullish for Bitcoin. I'm going to show you this a little bit more because people are often surprised when I say that, hey, Bitcoin typically, it does really, really well in Q4. Again, we don't just say October for a joke. There's a reason why we call October Uptober. And that's because Bitcoin goes up a lot when you look at it from a seasonality standpoint. So again, I think we're kind of entering that stage of the year where things are going to get really, really interesting. I think, again, the time is now. The bull run, I think, is just starting to kick off. I think we're going to see a lot of people come into Bitcoin over the next 6 months. So again, if you are new to Bitcoin, I will encourage you, please, please, please learn about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is so much more than a stock. It's so much more than a number go up vehicle, okay? Holding Bitcoin in self-custody is literally revolutionary. Holding custody that somebody cannot steal from you or seize from you, that really is revolutionary. So again, I would encourage you guys to just learn about Bitcoin. I know that we're very, very early in this game. So many people who come into Bitcoin today think they're late. We're not going to see, a lot of gains in the future. I disagree with that. I think we're going to see a ton of gains in the future. I think the best days for Bitcoin are ahead of it. I think there's no slowing down. There's no stopping this train. I think we're going to see some form of escape velocity in the not too distant future. Just my thoughts. I think we will be moving up and to the right in the not too distant future. And again, prepare yourself. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say prepare yourself because who knows where this thing's going to end? Who knows where the price of Bitcoin is going in the next 6 to 12 months? I always tell you prepare as if Bitcoin will be worth 50,000 or 5 million in the next 6 months. Like, again, you should be psychologically prepared for Bitcoin to be at 5 million tomorrow. And you should also be psychologically prepared for Bitcoin to dump 60% and be at 50,000 tomorrow. Both of those possibilities are very real possibilities, and we could very comfortably see one. So again, learn about why you should be holding Bitcoin for the long term. Learn about how to put Bitcoin in self-custody. I've talked a lot about that today. There's so many comments. I literally can't get through them all. It's insane. While I am talking about comments, again, I've teased this for a little while now, but I do actually have a Skool community where we're going to be hosting more and more live streams. So again, if you're not over there on Skool, make sure you sign up. I'm going to start doing them once a week. Right now, it is free to get in while it still is free. Maybe one day I might put a paywall on it, but right now it's free. So again, if you join today and it's free, you'll be grandfathered in for life. Come say good day over there if you ever want to, tune into more and more live streams. Because again, there are so many people learning more about Bitcoin today, and they might want to have their hand held through the Bitcoin buying journey. So again, 7 months ago, I really understood Bitcoin and Luke lit the fire. I'm glad I lit a fire. I'm always surprised at how many of you guys reach out and say that you're new to the channel. So thank you for following along if you guys are new to the channel. If you do like content like this, make sure you subscribe because we're doing a bit of content every single day for at least the next couple of weeks. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. Speaking of people who don't miss anything, that is McLovin. Only 210 million people could hold 0.1 Bitcoin if it were already mined. None lost and evenly distributed in 0.1 amounts. That's such a beautiful note. And this is what people don't understand. You really do need so much less Bitcoin than most people think to retire. Just run the numbers there. McLovin just did. Literally, about 2.5% of the world could buy 0.1 Bitcoin. That's about $12,000 worth today, if they wanted to. But again, Bitcoin is not evenly distributed. And I do talk a little bit more about exactly how much Bitcoin you need to retire in a video I released just a couple of days ago. I'm going to put a link to that one up on screen somewhere around there. And with that said, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will see you all